Where will we be? Where will we be when all the forests at last turn into tree farms and all the jobs have finally been exported? Where will we be when corporations build all of the food and there are no more species to protect from extinction? Where will we be when all the districts are properly gerrymandered and the elections are so much cheaper to pay for? Where will we be when our children are full of mercury and lead and they are bursting with video smarts but empty of education? Where will we be when strip malls have sprouted from sea to shining sea and every brave citizen lives within 5 miles of a Walmart? Where will we be when we import every drop of our oil but our frightening bombers cannot fly for lack of fuel? Where will we be when we are all safe inside the air conditioning but the bugs have become immune to the chemicals we are spraying? Where will we be when the illegales leave for home because there are no more jobs that we won't take for them to do? Where will we be when we are permanently downsized just before middle age and there are no jobs anywhere and we have never saved a penny? Where will we be when all our credit card bills come due, but all we want to do is simply to retire and live off of our Social Security? Where will we be when Levi's makes every pair of its jeans overseas and hungry workers down in Mexico lose their jobs to the Chinese? Where will we be when all the small plains towns dry up and blow away and the ConAgra crowd takes over completely as stewards of our land? Where will we be when grandsons cannot eat the fish that they catch and Appalachia has been scraped and flattened for the coal that remains? Where will we be when we can't afford new cars or the gas to power them and our children sit on the streets in rags with dirty faces? Where will we be when our factory farm fish are full of poisons and the milk from the mothers that we fight for is laced with PCBs? Where will we be when there is no more water for golf in the desert and the underground aquifer wells make that empty sucking sound? Where will we be when the drought just does not stop getting hotter and industrial crops wither and corporate-owned soils simply blow away? Where will we be when it's all wheelchair and ATV accessible and our kids beg the conglomerates for temporary jobs at any wages? Where will we be when everything we buy we proudly do not understand and we do not have the cash to hire someone to fix it? Where will we be when we no longer need to save more time and our lifestyle choices belong to those who manage our bedpans? Where will we be when millions contact a fatal influenza at identical malls and Homeland Security permits vendors to sell your viewing habits? Where will we be when the only real broadcast news is subsidized by the state and conservation is merely a hobby, smirkingly ignored by those in real power? Where will we be when our students finally learn the value of real education, then realize with growing anger that the good jobs are nowhere to be found? Where will we be when global competition pays us all 70 cents an hour and the world finds itself at last in an egalitarian corporate economic balance? Where will we be when the educated far outnumber the jobs that remain and the ignorant and brutal can no longer prosper safely within our midst? Where will we be when the next demagogue simplifies all the answers? And how will we avoid a war that it kills at least 200 million? Where will we be when all our engineering tasks are outsourced quite routinely and research and development is quickly farmed out overseas? Where will we be when all our clothes are made in foreign lands and the only things we export are used packaging, corporal food, and raw materials? Where will we be when everyone gets the same tiny bite from a fast-shrinking pie and the corporations at last merge with their partners in government? Where will we be when we all fall just like the old Soviet Union and foreign investors abandon us to our unpayable debts? Where will we be when the bills come due and there's no more refinancing as our own poison dust is carried over us by the hot and drying wind? Where will we be when the yellow and brown saviors come to buy our homes while the European brothers we alienated simply smile politely as we are left behind? Where will we be when we finally rid ourselves of concerns over the biosphere and we can concentrate on the last of the feasible extractions? Where will we be when all the coral reefs bleach out and wash away and the economic forecast far outweighs our environmental scorecard? Where will we be when religions compete freely on a global scale and the venture capitalists take them public for franchising fees? Where will we be when we have little remaining except our nuclear arsenal and biological and chemical weapons we have stored in the desert? Where will we be when high tech meets those three upon their horses and we cannot simply point and click once more to solve our problems? Where will we be when the red Chinese smile down upon us from the moon and we still let them ship us things built by the slaves that we are becoming? Where will we be when all the baby boomers morph into doddering Botox zombies, still demanding more than those before them for doing so much less? Where will we be when there are no more dolphins to perish as simple tuna bycatch and the sharks have all been slaughtered to make soup of their fins? Where will we be when our wonder drugs do not protect and patients rot away and the amoral, without foresight, go forth and genetically modify the world? Where will we be when drinking water costs more than rationed gasoline, yet comes in dirty buckets siphoned from contaminated wells? Where will we be when the market value of a human life bottoms out once again while the faithful suffer quietly all of their lives, sustained by some fairy tale heaven? Where will we be when the conglomerates have finished all their acquisitions and southern China has no more farmland, but plenty of empty factories? Where will we be when the fix to the genetic modification problem goes awry and the ultimate solution involves unforeseeable risks and too many trade-offs? Where will we be when the Israelis fence the Palestinians into a sandy ghetto, but their loyal soldiers shoot only upon orders from their superiors? Where will we be when the Kamchatka tiger leaves no more silent footprints and his mighty brown bear brother shuffles off into the void as well? Where will we be when the songbirds are no longer heard in our backyards, and who would even notice while playing video games upon the big screens? Where will we be when we realize our food supply is full of poison and the government cannot blame terrorists for this corporate crime? Where will we be when the most heat we can afford barely keeps our pipes from freezing, and we can no longer ignore the heat because there is no more air conditioning? Where will we be when we create a digital life form from among all of our images and they take into account the things that we chose to ignore? Where will we be when the world realizes your son is not worth 10 cents an hour, but their purchases of our treasury bonds assume $200 per day? Where will we be when rodents become a vital part of this food supply and boiled water is not used simply to make a little tea? Where will we be when proud male lions no longer bring down filthy hyenas and fat men with thinning hair cannot drive their large and loud pickups? Where will we be then? It's pretty easy just to ask right now. And the drunken Inuit watch the polar bears retreat forever along with the ice.